You will be shocked to know that there are some demons that threaten the lives of pregnant mothers and newborn babies during childbirth. Fasten your seatbelt as I share the mysterious tale of Amara, the nurse who made a deal with a baby-eating demon in exchange for eternal beauty and good looks. In the heart of Anambra State, there stood a hospital known for delivering healthy, bouncing babies. It was where mothers came when they wanted the best care for themselves and their newborns. The hospital was known for its chief nurse, Amara. Nurse Amara had been working at the hospital for as long as anyone could remember, but her face never seemed to age. She was over 50 years old, but she still looked like a young lady in her 20s. For over 50 years, she maintained the same flawless skin, glowing complexion, and vibrant youth. Mothers trusted her, calling her Nurse Amara, the nurse with blessed hands, the nurse who never aged. But what they didn't know was that her beauty came at a terrible price, a price paid with the lives of some of the children she delivered. Nurse Amara had made a deal with an ancient demon, a baby-eating monster from the spirit world. In exchange for eternal youth and beauty, Nurse Amara sacrificed some of the newborns born in the hospital as part of this twisted deal. The spirit that fed on the souls of these newborn babies was Lamashtu, a pregnant demon having a lion's head, a hairy donkey's body, long fingers and fingernails, and the feet of a bird with sharp iron claws and cold, predatory eyes. The demon had one simple rule, one taboo. Amara must never let oil touch her skin. Lamashtu warned Amara that if she ever broke this rule, the deal would be off, and Amara's soul would belong to her. Nurse Amara was confident in her control over her beauty, and never thought she would be at risk of breaking the taboo. But everything changed when Adaku, a young mother of triplets, stepped into the picture. She was brought into Nurse Amara's hospital for delivery. As Adaku was wheeled into the maternity ward, she couldn't shake the suspicious feeling crawling over her skin. Nurse Amara entered the room quietly. Adaku had heard stories about Nurse Amara's beauty, but seeing her up close was different. Her skin was impossibly smooth, and her body almost too perfect to be real. Yet something about Nurse Amara's presence didn't sit right with Adaku. As Nurse Amara approached Adaku's bed, Adaku couldn't help but feel suspicious about her. "Don't worry, dear," Nurse Amara said in a soothing voice that sent chills down Adaku's spine. "Everything will be fine. You're in good hands." As Adaku's labor progressed, she saw something, like the figure of a demon standing just outside the room, watching her. But suddenly, the monster disappeared, and the doorway was empty. Adaku squeezed Nurse Amara's hand tighter, her heart racing. "Did you see that?" she whispered urgently. "See what?" Nurse Amara asked. Someone was there, outside the door," Adaku said in fear. Nurse Amara glanced at the doorway and then back at her. "There's no one there, Adaku. You're just tired." Adaku delivered her first baby. Her second and third babies followed soon after. Adaku had been blessed with triplets. The joy she felt when she first held her 3 beautiful babies in her arms was beyond words. After her smooth delivery, thanks to the skillful hands of Nurse Amara, she brought the babies home, dreaming of their bright futures. 3 nights later, that dream turned into a nightmare. Adaku woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a weird silence. Her triplets had disappeared in the dead of night without a trace. Her heart shattered. She screamed, tearing through the house, calling their names. The neighbors rushed to help, but no one had seen or heard anything. Panic and confusion filled the air, but no answers came. Adaku's world collapsed, and with each passing hour, her hope of finding her children alive dwindled. Desperate and on the verge of madness, Adaku sought out Ezeogugu, an ancient chief priest known for his connection to the spiritual world. People said he could see beyond the physical, into the realm where demons and spirits dwelled. Ezeogugu listened to Adaku's story in silence. When she finished, he sighed heavily. "My daughter, your children have been taken by a powerful demon, Lamashtu. She feeds on the souls of newborns, and her servant in the human world is Amara, the nurse who delivered them." Adaku's blood ran cold. "Nurse Amara?" she gasped. "But she saved them. She helped me deliver my babies." Ezeogugu shook his head. "Amara made an oath with Lamashtu long ago. In exchange for eternal youth and beauty, she sacrifices some of the babies she delivers. But there is a way to save your children." Adaku's heart raced. "Tell me. Please, I will do anything." You have 3 days, Ezogugu said, his voice grave. After that, your babies will be lost to the demon forever. The only way to break the pact is to use oil, a sacred oil. Amara must never let oil touch her skin, so if you can pour this bottle of oil on her, it will shatter her bond with Lamashtu, and the demon will take her soul instead of your children. But please be careful. Amara is not an ordinary human being. The demon has empowered her with powers beyond your understanding. She can bend shadows to her will, twist your mind, or even kill you. You must understand, Adaku. This fight will not be easy. With trembling hands, Adaku accepted the small bottle of oil from Eze Ogugu. She was scared, but she knew her children were out there somewhere, suffering in the clutches of a monster, and if it meant saving them, she was willing to risk everything. She stared directly into the old priest's eyes, her voice strong and unwavering. Eze Ogugu, I respect your wisdom, and I have listened to your warnings. But I have no fear, not of Amara, not of Lamashtu, and not of any gods or demons who stand in my way. I am a mother, and a mother will do anything for her children. Anything. If Lamashtu thinks I will cower before her, she's mistaken. She will see what happens when you take a mother's children. Eze Ogugu remained silent, his eyes studying her, but she pressed on, her voice rising with passion. I don't care what kind of dark magic Nurse Amara has been given. I don't care how powerful Lamashtu is. If they think they can keep my children, they're wrong. I am willing to face death itself, to walk through the fires of hell, if that's what it takes to bring my babies home. I will not stop, I will not break, and I will not fail. Even if I have to give my life to save them, so be it. Because if there is one thing stronger than any dark magic, it's a mother's love for her children. And that's something no demon can ever take from me. Eze Ogugu's eyes softened, a quiet respect in his gaze. He nodded slowly, placing a hand on her shoulder, his voice deep and reverent. You are braver than most, Adaku. Go now, and may the ancestors guide your path. But remember, your strength will come from your heart. That is where your true power lies. Without another word, Adaku turned and left the shrine. She knew the battle ahead was fraught with danger, but she was ready. For her children, she would fight until her last breath. But will a mother's love be strong enough to defeat the evil baby-eating demon, or is this demon's power too great for even a mother's heart to fight? As the sun set on the second day, Adaku made her way back to the hospital. She stood in the dimly lit hallway of the hospital, clutching the bottle of sacred oil tightly in her trembling hands. This was no ordinary hospital visit. She had come to confront Amara, the nurse who had stolen her triplets. This was a battle for the souls of her children. The atmosphere felt heavy, and the once familiar halls of the hospital now seemed evil. Adaku peeked through the slightly open door, and what she saw in the room terrified her. The air was thick with the smell of decay and old blood. Strange symbols were scrawled across the walls in what looked like dried blood. And in the center of the room stood Nurse Amara, her back turned to Adaku. In the room, Nurse Amara sang praises to Lamashtu. Great is this demon, Lamashtu, who tortures babies. She touches the bellies of women in labor. She pulls out the pregnant women's baby. Nurse Amara's chants scared Adaku, who had been listening. Gathering her courage, Adaku stepped into the room, interrupting Nurse Amara's chants. Amara, she called, her voice trembling. Nurse Amara turned slowly, a soft smile on her face. Adaku, my dear, what brings you back so soon? Is everything all right with the babies? The sight of her calm, beautiful face filled Adaku with rage. This was the woman who had taken her children. This was the monster. Where are my babies? She demanded, her voice breaking. What have you done with them? Nurse Amara's smile faded, and her eyes darkened. You shouldn't be here, Adaku, she said quietly. Go home. Forget your children. They're gone now. But Adaku wasn't leaving. She took a step forward. I'm not going anywhere until I get my babies back. Nurse Amara hissed. You still don't understand, do you? They belong to Lamashtu now, just like the other children I've delivered in this hospital. You cannot stop this. Lamashtu's power is too strong. Do you really think you can save your babies? Adaku's hand trembled as she pulled the bottle from her pocket. I'm going to break your oath with that demon, Amara. I'll save my babies, and you'll pay for what you've done. Nurse Amara's beauty twisted into something monstrous. Her once perfect skin had begun to crack and peel, revealing patches of scaly, dark flesh beneath. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and her lips curled into a cruel smile. Nurse Amara's smile widened as she raised her hands, and suddenly the walls began to tremble. Objects around the room, old surgical tools, cabinets, chairs, rose into the air, swirling in a chaotic storm around Nurse Amara. She flicked her wrist, and the objects flew toward Adaku with terrifying speed. But Adaku dodged the first wave of objects as they crashed into the wall behind her. Nurse Amara burst into evil laughter, then raised her arms even higher, and the floor beneath Adaku began to crack, opening up like a mouth ready to swallow her whole. But Adaku was ready. With a swift motion, she uncorked the bottle of sacred oil and flung a small amount toward Nurse Amara. The oil splashed across Nurse Amara's arm, and immediately she screamed in agony. The oil felt like hot oil on Nurse Amara's skin. Her beautiful skin sizzled, and her flesh tore away from her skin where the oil touched her. And for the first time, Adaku saw fear flash across Nurse Amara's face. Nurse Amara let out a loud scream as the oil burned through her skin, spreading like wildfire. With a final burst of energy, Adaku threw the last of the oil at Nurse Amara, dousing her completely. Nurse Amara's body began to disintegrate, her beautiful facade falling away entirely, revealing the true monster beneath, the twisted servant of Lamashtu. "No!" Nurse Amara screamed, her voice rising in panic. "Lamashtu, help me!" Suddenly, the room was filled with a very dark presence. The shadows gathered and twisted, forming the shape of Lamashtu herself. The demon's lion-like head and gleaming claws shimmered in the darkness, her wings casting a menacing shadow over the room. Lamashtu's voice echoed through the halls. "You have broken our oath, Amara. Oil has touched your skin. Now, your soul belongs to me." Nurse Amara's screams filled the air as Lamashtu's claws reached out, snatching her soul from her writhing body. In an instant, her body crumpled to the floor, lifeless and aged, her once youthful beauty now nothing more than a distant memory. Lamashtu turned her cold gaze toward Adaku. "Your children are returned," the demon said, her voice low and menacing. In the corner of the room, Adaku heard the soft cries of her triplets. She rushed over to find them safe and unharmed, tears of relief streaming down her face. She gathered them in her arms, whispering prayers of gratitude. But as Lamashtu's presence began to fade, Adaku couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. She heard a low, evil whisper echoing in her mind. "This is not the end, Adaku. Your children may be safe for now, but I will return. You cannot escape me. No one can."